Welcome. This is Lynn Jordan from I Love Romance Novels. And today I have a great privilege of interviewing Karen Kay. She has made it to the Amazon #1 new release in American historical romance. She's also a multi-published author of romance and adventure in the Old West, American Indian. And she's been praised by reviewers and fans alike for bringing insights into the everyday life of the American Indian culture of the past. Suzanne Tucker, a reviewer, once said Miss Kay never fails to capture the pride, the passion, and the spirit of the American Indian. Of course, there's a good reason for that, because Karen's great-grandmother was Choctaw Indian, and she's adopted Blackfeet. She's honored to be able to write about the American Indian culture. She says, with the power of romance, I hope to bring about awareness of the American Indian's concept of honor and what it means to live as free men and free women. There are some things that should never be forgotten, and I think we all could agree with that. So welcome. How are you doing today, Karen?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you.
I know we're going to talk about your latest release, but that's actually the 5th book in your Medicine Man series.
Yes.
So any of the other books that you would like to talk about, we would love to hear about. The new release,
Okay.
She Belongs in My World, and as I said, that is number 5. They all look so marvelous. Why don't
Thank
you tell
you.
us a little bit about why you started writing about the American Indian and what drew you to that time period and that culture?
I have always, even as a child, admired the Indians. I grew up in the 50s, 60s, and in that time period, the American Indian had kind of a bad image on TV and in the movies. I never went there with it. I always knew that was not really quite right. I don't know why, but I always knew it was not quite right. And I was sided with the Indians. It was later in life, after I started writing, actually, that one of my neighbors from when I was growing up, my best friend, so follow me here because this is almost a little difficult. Her mother,
Okay.
my best friend, her mother was the best friend of my grandmother. Does that make sense? So,
Really?
yeah. And so her mother was the best friend of my grandmother. And my grandmother talked often about her heritage. And now the interesting part of it is that I didn't know a thing about this, until later in life. And come to find out, well, I've always known my father had done a family tree and a lot of things came up on it. But one thing that came up on it, which I didn't know, is that of this heritage through my grandmother. But that family tree is lost. And now it's
Terrible.
all stories passed down. So I know about some stories passed down.
Since you're a writer, you can write down those stories again and make sure they don't get lost.
That's right. My brother's wife, before she passed away several years ago, had done some research into this to find out more information since we knew it was there. And she came up with some pictures of my grandmother's mother that basically brought the whole heritage into the family. And
Mm.
I'm not a computer geek. I'm so non-techie that I thought I would have that computer forever and that picture would be on the computer forever, but I didn't save it. And I don't have that
No.
now. And
Mm.
I keep hoping that someday we'll find that computer again and I'll be able to pull it off, but so far it hasn't happened. The computer died.
Maybe somebody else has that picture, has a copy of it, and a lot of people in Ancestry put up pictures and such, and so you might be able to find it.
That would be great. That would really be great. Now she had two pictures she had dug up, but foolishly, I lost them.
Did you always wanna write, or was this something
Um,
that you wanted to write after you found out about your heritage?
no, I haven't always. I grew up in a household when my mother was a music teacher. And so we were taught music from a very young age. We had to practice every day. She got us up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day. We had to,
Been there, did
you know,
that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, were you really?
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
My mother was an accomplished pianist, and I could never live up to her.
But you learned and you had to practice. You got up every day.
Yes.
And over 18 years, you've become pretty proficient. But the other thing that you get is you get feeling for the beauty of art, the
Definitely.
aesthetics of it. The aesthetics of it can take you to a realm that you don't normally go to in your everyday life. I call it the realm of beauty. And it uplifts you, that particular form of music. And so I just grew up always having that around me. We played piano and clarinet. Did you play other instruments besides piano?
I played saxophone.
Saxophone. My mother played saxophone.
My sister played clarinet.
Oh, did she? So did
Yes.
I. Yeah, and we had to practice both those instruments every day. Not to mention there was band, at school.
Yes.
I don't know
Oh,
if they
yes.
still have that at school or not, but so
Yeah,
anyway,
I think they do.
they do. Time went on. I got married. I had some kids. My husband was gone a lot. He was an intern, wasn't making a lot of money. I was on my own, very young kid. One wasn't even yet one. And having to work and figure out where the kids go, daytime so I can work. He said, it was a tough time for me. And during that time, I wanted to have a piano so I could just play. You know what I mean? I didn't have a piano. I was just living by what do you call it? Your bootstrap. So one day I had gotten into, because of where I was working, there were a few girls who were reading romance. And they gave me a book one day and said, here, read this. And that was the beginning of reading romance for me. During the time, I read a lot of romance. And then one day I thought, I don't have a piano. I don't have paints. I don't have any of these things that take you into that realm where you can just let go of your cares for a little while. And I looked around. I went, I had paper and a pen. And that began,
Definitely.
that was the start. That was the start.
Well, neat. Well, how long was it you were writing before you started the Native American books?
I was writing off and on, mostly contemporary, like Short Little Harlequin, trying to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I bulked at writing historicals because of the research involved. And then one day, I've always been drawn to the Native American. I read a few Native American romances, and I thought, give that a try, because I really like that. And so that's what I started doing. And that was my first book that got published, was that historical romance.
So back in the day, I'm sure you were traditionally published, right?
That was the only path. It was Avon book.
Oh, of course, they're historicals.
And then I did go to Berkeley. And then after that, when the Native American romance, this is in 2010, when the bookstores were closing and the whole field was in an uproar, so to speak, and the publishers were hurrying to get their books out there. And they decided, I don't know where it came from, but I believe it was a bookstore that said, well, we're no longer buying American Indian stories. So I then went to Samhain Publishing and published all of my backlists and with them. But then they basically closed shop. And so I was looking at maybe going back and getting traditionally published again, but then had a friend who said, hey, you should try the indie route. And so I did. And now I'm sort of like, yeah, I like being an indie. There's freedom here. You can write what's in your heart, and you're not told that, well, the market doesn't call for that right now. What if it does?
Yes.
Yeah, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot when I was writing for Avon and Berkeley and Samhain. And you learn the business.
Yes.
That's kind of important. Yeah.
And you learn a lot about editing. what editors are looking for. I think that's
Yeah,
education all in its own.
it is. It is. And the interesting thing is you probably got into this too, is that when I first started writing, I didn't really know much about writing. I wasn't, unlike the piano and that sort of thing, I didn't know a lot about it. I just wanted to tell stories.
Well, when you started, you didn't know a lot about the piano either. Even
Yeah.
though you've read a lot, you don't really know what goes into writing and what makes good writing versus bad writing. And I think
Yes,
beginning writers all make the same mistakes.
I
I
think you're right.
did, and
Editors are
yeah,
there and they catch little things.
they basically teach you how to write.
Yes. And
So,
they tell you some secrets
yes,
about
yes.
storytelling that I didn't know. I just did it naturally, and I guess I had it down. But I didn't know. I didn't know, like, I had one editor say, in this story, your characters are just, "Ta, ta, 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 ta." They just talk all the time. And I said, well, okay, but what's wrong with that? She said, well, you need a little bit more action. I said, well, isn't
Mhm.
talking action? This is how naive I was. And she said, no, talking, that's narrative, not
Uh-huh.
narrative, dialogue. And she is the one who told me she has three elements in which tell a good story. One is dialogue, the other is narrative, and the other is action. And you should have them pretty much balanced all through the book. I didn't know that.
That's wonderful advice.
I didn't know that. I tell beginning authors this so that they now know you want that. You do want some narrative. I had some editors don't like any narrative, but you need some of that narrative. You need the dialogue. You need the action.
Definitely.
You learn a lot.
Yeah, I know my first drafts used to be like a screenplay. It was all just dialogue. And then I'd have to go back and layer in the other things. Can't they just be sitting down talking? Not exactly. Since
Yeah.
you're used to doing the practice of the piano daily, did that lead into your writing schedule? You still keep that up, or what is your writing schedule like?
Well, yes. In one sentence, yes. That really helps. You become disciplined when you get up
Yes,
at 6 a.m. in the morning to practice two different instruments and then get dressed to go to school. And then, yeah, that was very helpful. Right now, because I have fallen and I don't really know if I have a concussion. They do talk about it going on for a while, but that really cut into the writing time. So it was hard. It was hard for me to finish those two deadlines that I had when I had the concussion, but I did. And I did it with the discipline that you're talking about. But now I have so many other things in the morning. I can't get up in the morning, read anymore, and write or practice or anything like that because I now have farm chores. We have a teeny
ah,
tiny, itty bitty, teeny tiny farm.
really?
Yeah, just for us. That's all. Have it. We have all the chores. It's a
Yes,
tiny farm, but lots of chores. So, so
right.
there was a priority in the morning.
Uh-huh, do.
And then I had my schedule pretty much in the afternoons, but then that was taken because we have all kinds of appointments and stuff. And so I'm working on my schedule
Ah,
pretty heavily to try to get it down to something that works. In the meantime, I have at least a day or two that no matter what I'm writing, that's it.
okay.
Nothing more.
You need to take care of your health. Head trauma is nothing to mess with. Do you have a favorite place that you like to write?
I have a desk. When I first started, I wrote by hand when I could write where. It didn't really matter to me. But I have a desk when I'm in the middle of a story that looks a mess because I have books everywhere. I write historical and you've read something, now you got to find it again. Books are everywhere. And then I have all of my own notes because in a historical, you've got to make sure that what you're saying happened could happen.
Right.
We write fiction. but it could happen. And then also knowing the whole environment of these two people that they live in at that time, particularly in Native American stories, is important. Was it during the Indian Wars? Was it before then? Was it before Lewis and Clark? Was it after Lewis? Exactly like where
Mhm.
you. It's important.
Very important. If you get it wrong, you'll get letters.
That's true. Although I have to admit, I have very few of those. Very few, because I do tend to really research these
Okay.
areas. There's been a couple of people who have written to me, and one was about a word that I use. And I just wrote her back that it was a word that is more commonly used in the Lakota language today. It is a word, but, I just wrote it that way. And another one had blue eagle. Well, there's no blue eel, you know. The blue designates a particular quality. An eagle represents another particular quality. Blue can be, it depends upon the tribe, because all tribes are different. Some tribes had blue as being calming, a calming influence. Well, eagle is a strong eagle. So you kind of have a little bit. A blue eagle might be someone, who is strong, but is also very, very kind or mild, blah, 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 that sort of thing. It doesn't mean that there really is a blue eagle somewhere.
That's really interesting. Yes. I think
Yeah.
the letters give you an opportunity to actually build a relationship with your readers. They're not always a bad thing.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I had one letter that came in the first time I tried to write a series. I'm still writing series, but the very first time, my very first series, where the books are related. I'd done series before, but they're not related by people or events or tribes. They're related by some other thing. For instance, my legendary warrior series, everything's based on a legend, but it's completely different stories. In a series, like we're talking a series now, the stories are interrelated somehow.
Yes.
And so I didn't know at the time when you put like a first chapter of your next story in a book that, well, maybe you don't want to put the exact first chapter, like Amazon does it and all these kinds of people. And so I would put a first chapter in the back of my book. Well, then the first chapter and the next book starts with, a bit of a cliffhanger, because the first chapter, and then you go on through the story. Well, so anyway, someone wrote me about that and said, well, wait a minute, where's the book? Where's the book? It's like, well, it'll be out in a few months. I'm writing.
Yeah.
So then I went, okay, I get it. I get it now. Okay. Not necessarily do you have to put it the first chapter, just give a taste on book.
That's a good lesson.
That was a good lesson.
What do you really like about writing?
I like the aesthetics of it. I like that you get to tell a story, and I like the research. I like it because I feel like in the past, elders would always include history of the tribe to their grandchildren or great grandchildren. And I feel like we're losing that to a great degree. A lot of old people would prefer to be in a home or not to live with their children and that sort of thing. Because where I was growing up during the 50s and 60s, and the Native Americans did not have a good rap. That's what I call it. The memories were harsh on them in many ways. Not all, but many. Even today, I notice that some of the people don't know their own history. They just don't know it. They're not taught it. They don't know because it's not reading like all these history things that I read stories of people who lived that life, the people who ran with the buffalo and shot them and what they could do. All that history, there's a history that's missing. And it's a wonderful history. Yeah, like I know the tribes were at war And I know that the men would go to war, and I know why they did, to seek revenge because someone did something to them. But then when you seek revenge, that other person is now going to have to seek revenge.
Yeah.
So it goes into this little circle. But there was tribal life. There was a lot to be learned about how to get along in a unit and the roles. There's a lot of history, and there's a lot of things that we've kind of lost. Like, for instance, lying. No one. I mean, lying was practically you could be ousted from the tribe for simply lying, Well, if that were true today,
Glad you're keeping those stories alive and telling those
that is
stories.
one of the reasons why I keep doing what I'm doing. I want those stories to live. And a lot of my stories are based on real happenings that did happen. I always write in fiction, but something happened like 200 years ago, and they had a buffalo hunt, and this happened, and that happened, and blah, blah, blah. And as a result, that could be in my book, a buffalo hunt. These details are so important back then.
If that's what you like about writing, what do you like least about writing?
Let me think for a minute. What do I like least? I think it would be all the promotion. That's not really writing.
It's not, but it's part of it.
Yeah, it's part of it. The promotion I do not find very fun. I know you have to do it, and I do it, but that's not really writing. About writing itself, let me think. I like a lot of things about writing. If I were to think of, but that's not really, I was thinking time, it's hard for me to get the time to do it right now. That's not really writing.
But it's part of the process.
Yes. Yes. When it comes to writing itself, I just want to tell the story. I don't want to think about grammar or spelling or structure or, well, is this the right kind of voice? I don't want to worry about that. I just want to get the story down. And I call them little particulars that are important. Not that they're not important, but I call them little particulars because when I'm trying to write a story, my attention is not on any of those little things. My attention is on the hero, the heroine, what problem are they trying to solve, that sort of thing. And I like my attention being on that. And so the little things drop out. Every day I go back and I edit that, but that doesn't mean that that's even the final edit. But
you edit the chapters as you go?
Yeah.
From what you said, that you may want to just do a first draft and then do the second pass as an edit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Going back over the chapters, though, what I find is, excuse me, because these are just terms that I use for it. If I go back over the chapters that I've written and come back up to where I am, I'm back in the story. And for me, I call it the creative mind. It isn't the same mind that you do math with. It's just not. It's not even the same mind that you read with. It's a creative mind. That's how I think of it. And if I go back over, I'm not saying every single chapter, but if I go back over like 2 or 3 days back and I come forward editing as I go, I'm in the story. I know where I'm going, and I'm in that mind.
That's a good workflow. I think that's important, especially for beginning writers to know, is you have to experiment till you find your own flow. Everybody does it different.
That's right. That's right.
It took me a long time, and my flow changes all the time anyway. So
true. It's really true.
Have you had to change anything since your injury?
Yeah. I've had to kind of calm down about a day goes by and I don't write. I just can't get myself into it. I sit there looking at a screen and I'm trying to figure out, and it's been harder to get into that creative mind. And I think that's why on this deadline that I had, once I was in that mind and I was close to being finished with the book I was writing, I just stayed there and finished the book. I was in that mind. I didn't have to just sit in front of the computer trying to get trying to get into
Mm-hmm.
writing. And that was hard in the beginning because I just go
I
and I'd sit.
imagine.
Yeah, that was really hard. And so I just did it. That I was real near the ending of it, and I was just like, I'm going to just finish it. It's going to be done. Of course, in going back over, I changed things, but at least I was able to get to the end of the book. And then, as you know, you go and you fix it.
What about your publication schedule? How long do you see this series going? What are you publishing next?
I'm writing book 6 right now from
Good.
2 characters from the last book. But I'm coming up a great degree in history. I started in the 1830s and I'm following the medicine men, and it's almost like a family line, although not always, but coming up more to I'm never going to come to the present, but I want to come up to the Wild West
Oh,
shows.
definitely.
So I want to come up to the show. So right now I'm in the 1870s and I'm having to learn a lot. I don't normally write during this period because this is when the Indian War started in full. And they started for a lot of the tribes, the Comanche, the Apache, the Blackfeet, Kearney, the Lakota, the Cheyenne. All of those tribes at one point or another in the 1870s were at war with, or I would say the military was at war with them. It's hard to write during this time period, and I usually don't. I usually avoid it. I usually just jump. I'll go real early, and then I'll jump like to the, this will be fun to write about. We'll write about all the Western shows.
There you go.
Just skip over this time period. But I can't right now because that's the live. These 2 people are alive during that time. And so I've been having to do a lot of research of the wars, which I don't like. I don't like reading about that. But,
No.
that's done now. I had to do it because for this story, the hero has to know what's going on. And he doesn't. The Blackfeet were not really involved too much in those wars until 1871 when they had a particular incident happen. And then they weren't like the Lakota, Cheyenne, the Comanche, the Apache, the Kiowa, the Arapaho. All those tribes were heavily in battle during this time. And so my hero has to find out about it. I'm writing about the Blackfeet. I will tell you why I'm writing about the Blackfeet. I am adopted Blackfeet. I who knew of a literacy project. We brought a literacy project up to the Blackfeet Reservation. It was there for about 5 years, and it did a whole lot of good, actually. It did some good. So I was adopted into the tribe because I was instrumental in getting that going. And I made friends. And one of the friends that I made was Steve Rivas. I was living in LA at the time, and he's a Native American actor, handsome guy. And so I met him, and he helped with the project. There were several actors who helped with the project. Steve was one of them. George Randall was another. Steve and his wife were very instrumental in helping get the project going on. And I had gone on to writing about different tribes at that time. I had done some writing with the Blackfeet tribe, but I'd gone on and I started some writing with the Cheyenne and the Lakota and the Wild West shows. Those are usually Lakota. And so I was away from the Blackfeet. And then I learned that he had passed away in 2017. And it was just, oh my gosh, I felt like I'd lost my best friend. He and his wife just became friends of our family, and I didn't know. And so I went right back to the Blackfeet. And so now I'm writing about the Blackfeet and their medicine men. And I love it. I love it. I love doing that.
Oh, good. You're doing a lot for the culture too, I know. So
I do hope so. I try. I really,
yeah.
you wouldn't believe the books I have around me.
I probably would, but yeah.
Yeah.
And well, do you have any advice for anybody that might want to try writing?
Sure. And I would tell them this advice. Don't worry about the little things. I think all this grammar stuff and spelling and cut paragraphs and blah, blah, blah. And oh my gosh, do I have a voice? And don't worry about those. They will come. All of that will become part of your knowledge. What you need to do as a beginning writer is just write every day. Just write every day if you can, even if it's only a page or two, or even if you're just there staring at a blank screen for 2 hours. You're at least there putting in the time to be writing, and don't worry about any of this other stuff that people tell you to worry about. Well, my God, is that an executive? Or was that a subjective? Who cares? That's going to be caught by you and your editors or your copy editor. And your job is to tell the best story that you can from your heart, really feel it, and just, write that story as though you're telling it to your grandkids or you're telling the story to your best friend or something like that. You are telling a story to other people, not just for yourself, but for them. You want that story to uplift them or at least inform them of what you're writing. You want to carry them with you on your journey in the story. And that's the most important thing you can do.
That's great
That's what I
advice.
think.
Thank you so much for that.
Oh,
Is
really?
there anything you'd like to tell us that I haven't asked you about?
No, not really. It's been wonderful talking to you. When I found out about the interview thing, I didn't know you were a writer. I thought you had a writer's group. And that makes a big difference
It does. It does.
because you've been there.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people, readers, not a lot of readers tell me this. I have a lot of readers, but not every reader tells me this, but at least 2 or 3 of them have told me because we correspond and I kind of keep them up to date with what I'm doing and all the stuff that I'm doing to try to write this story. And they go, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea what goes into writing a book.
Well, what is it? They say 95% of the population want to write a book someday.
And then 5% do it, that it.
Yeah. I think, what is it? 5 or 10% start and 2% finish.
Oh, yeah. The thing about it is you're telling stories and people tell stories all the time.
They do.
You
They
know,
do.
and you are writing for a purpose that's burning within your own heart to be something that happened to you, something that happened to someone else, or you heard a story, or you just want to inform or you want to take somebody emotionally somewhere and make them feel good, or you want to scare the living daylights out of someone. Somebody told us to. Yeah, but it is what you are wanting to do. And the most important thing, I think, is your story. And to just write it and get it written and get it out and the rest will come.
Do you have a newsletter or you hang out on social media? How do you build a relationship with your audience?
I do have a newsletter
Oh, good.
and
Good. If you will
you
give
got
me
my
the link, I will put it in the description of the video.
oh, okay. Okay. It's on my website. One can subscribe to my newsletter on my website and I can send you the link. It's at
Okay,
the end
great.
of all of my books. I put the link to my
Mhm.
newsletter. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. That's the best promotion you can do, I think. So if people
Mm,
want to get in touch with you, I will include that link. And I
yes.
really appreciate you being here today. This series itself is so fascinating, and you are such an interesting person to talk to.
Oh
I
my
have really
goodness.
enjoyed it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm getting out a book right now. I always encourage people to write to me personally too.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
I'll send you the link to sign up for my
Yeah,
newsletter.
I will put it in the description of the video. And I will put this video up on the I Love Romance novel page. I'll also put it up on my YouTube channel. If anybody has any questions they would really like to ask, you can leave a comment in either place on Facebook or on YouTube, and I will see that she gets them.
That's right. I love people who write to me, actually.
Yes. Writers really do. And the other thing you can really do if you want to really help out your favorite writers is leave a review. Those are
That's right.
golden. They're more important than you think they are. So that's my pitch for leaving reviews. So thank you all for being with us this evening. And I will get this video up as soon as I can.
That's great.